The Grand Hall of the Galaxy Council was designed to intimidate anyone who walked inside it. The ceiling stretched so high it disappeared into a haze of pale blue mist, supported by pillars carved from living crystals that hummed with ancient power. Light from 100 nebulae filtered through the transdimensional windows, casting slow-moving colors across the polished marble floor. But today the hall felt darker than usual. Colder. Angrier. Representatives from 30 star systems sat around the massive circular chamber, each in their own raised platform, each with their species banners floating behind them. The air buzzed with tension, thick enough to choke even a species without lungs. All attention was fixed on the center of the room, where a hologram flickered above the council dais. It showed humans. Laughing. Not polite smiling, not diplomatic courtesy, real, uncontrolled laughter. Some were wiping tears from their eyes. Others were slapping tables, leaning back, or laughing so hard they couldn't breathe. And that, apparently, was the greatest insult in the history of the council. At the head of the hall stood the Supreme Chancellor Valer Kerwich, leader of the most powerful governing body in the galaxy. His tall, silver-scaled frame trembled with fury. Veins pulsed under the ridges of his neck as he stared at the hologram, eyes glowing a venomous shade of gold. "Look at them!" Valer roared, slamming the butt of his obsidian staff against the floor. The blow echoed like thunder. "Humans," he hissed. "A species that has existed in the interstellar community for less than a century. A species with no respect for ancient laws, no understanding of proper hierarchy, no reverence for the Council's authority." A wave of murmurs rippled through the chamber. The insectoid representative from the KRYG Dominion clicked her mandibles sharply. "They take nothing seriously. They joke even during formal negotiations." A booming voice followed from the armored giant of the Gorth Alliance. "They laugh when confronted. They laugh when warned. They laugh even when commanded to explain themselves." But Valer was not done. His fury only grew. He raised his staff again and the hologram shifted, playing another clip. This time it showed a human ambassador, casually dressed, relaxed, speaking during a council request for planetary cooperation. The ambassador had said, "Sure, we'll get right on that." Then winked. Then laughed again along with the rest of the human delegation. It wasn't malicious. It wasn't mocking. But the council didn't understand human humor. Never had. To them, laughter during discussion meant defiance. It meant disrespect. It meant, worst of all, a challenge to their authority. The reptilian envoy from the Vorth Syndicate slammed his claws into the edge of his podium. "They disregard our territorial boundaries. They travel through restricted zones, claiming shortcuts." Shortcuts? As if the galaxy is some playground for their reckless wandering. A smaller, softer voice came from the floating jelly-light species known as the Lysarii. "They expand too quickly, discover too much, change too many things. They do not follow the order we have set for centuries." The hall erupted with growls, hisses, and agitated pulses of color. Valer's voice rose above them all. "Humanity is a threat to stability. A danger to tradition. They refuse to bow, to fear, to obey. They laugh in the face of the very institution that governs the galaxy." A harsh metallic scraping sounded as the machine representative of the Synth Collective leaned forward. "Organic humor detected. Purpose unknown. Pattern, chaotic. Conclusion, corrective action required." The council chamber darkened as Valer activated the next hologram, a projection of Earth's growing fleet. Sleek vessels. Innovative designs. Faster-than-light signatures that the council didn't fully understand. "Look at them," he spat. "Their technology evolves at a reckless pace. Faster than regulation permits. Faster than order can contain." His eyes narrowed. "And now they laugh at us. Publicly. On a broadcast viewed by 32 systems." A heavy silence followed. Even the humming crystal pillars seemed to quiet. The council was not used to being mocked. Most species trembled in fear whenever the council summoned them. Some sent offerings. Others apologized endlessly. But humans? They didn't grovel. They didn't panic. They simply laughed. Valer raised his chin and scanned the chamber slowly. "They have insulted our authority, violated our laws, ignored our warnings. And they respond with amusement, as if we are some kind of spectacle for their entertainment." Representatives shifted uncomfortably. The Chancellor continued. "The humans send explorers into forbidden territories without permission. They weaponize scientific breakthroughs before registering them. They establish colonies in disputed zones without negotiation. And when confronted, when told to stop, they pretend not to hear. Or worse. He gestured toward the hologram again. They laugh. A low ripple of anger chimed through the crowd. Laughter was not universal among species. For many, the sound resembled aggression, a declaration of dominance or mocking superiority. To some, it even signaled madness. And humans laughed often. Too often. The ambassador from the cold-blooded Terran Empire hissed, "They consider us amusing." The amphibian representative croaked, "They believe themselves untouchable." The avian envoy screeched, "They must be shown their place." Valor lifted his staff again. Its obsidian surface glowed with a crimson core, resonating with his rising fury. Enough discussion. Enough tolerance. Enough waiting for them to change. His voice boomed through the chamber. The Terran species has had ample time to show respect. They have had ample warnings. They have chosen arrogance instead. He paused, letting the tension coil like a spring ready to snap. Today, Valor finally declared, we must demonstrate the power of unity, the strength of order, the authority of this council. Many leaned forward. Others held their breath. The Chancellor slammed his staff down again with a deafening crack. I propose that we officially declare war on the Terran Union. Gasps erupted. A few delegates cheered. Others blinked their multiple eyes skeptically. War had not been declared by the Council in 2 centuries. But the idea spread fast, sparked to flame. The Vorth Syndicate representative raised a claw. We support the Chancellor. The Kerwaji Dominion envoy echoed, we support war. One by one, banners lit up in approval. Only a handful remained uncertain, but fear of humanity's quirks convinced them silence was the safer choice. Within minutes, all 30 systems cast their votes. A blinding beam lit the center of the chamber, sealing the decision in shimmering gold letters across the air. The Galaxy Council declares war upon the Terran Union. Valor gazed upon the glowing proclamation with grim satisfaction. Let them laugh now, he growled. But deep inside, none of them, not even Valor, truly understood what humanity's laughter meant. And none were prepared for what would happen next. The declaration of war reached Earth faster than anyone expected. Deep beneath the surface of New Geneva, inside the secure chambers of the Terran Union Strategic Command, an encrypted transmission cut through every other priority message. Red sigils flashed across the curved wall screens, and an alarm hummed, a low, steady tone reserved for only the most urgent threats. High Commander Aaron Salas entered the room without ceremony. He had the look of a soldier carved from patience and fire, dark eyes sharp, jaw set, a streak of silver through his hair that made him look older than his 40 years. Behind him followed a small group of senior officers, analysts and advisors. What's the situation? Salas asked. The central hollow table flickered to life, projecting the council's seal. The emblem rotated slowly, surrounded by glowing red warning text. Colonel Mira Ilian stepped forward, her posture rigid. Sir, it's a formal declaration. From the Galaxy Council. Salas raised an eyebrow. A declaration of what, exactly? Mira swallowed. War, sir. For a heartbeat, the room was silent. Then the transmission began to play. Valor Kerwaich's voice echoed across the chamber, grand, theatrical, dripping with self-importance. The Terran species has violated interstellar law. They have disregarded the order of this galaxy. Therefore, as Supreme Chancellor, I officially declare war on the Terran Union. The speech continued, filled with threats, accusations, and the Council's promise of a swift demonstration of authority. When the message ended, a soft beep signaled the recording's closure. Commander Aaron Salas stared at the holoscreen for a moment. Then he laughed. Not a small chuckle. Not a polite laugh. A real laugh, deep, rolling, infectious. The room froze. Then one by one the officers around him broke into laughter too. Colonel Mira doubled over the console. Admiral Jalen Kor wiped tears from the edges of his eyes. Even the stoic AI interface, built to mimic human expression, projected a faint smirk. It wasn't disrespect. It wasn't madness. It was disbelief mixed with a strange kind of relief. Finally, Salas raised a hand, steadying himself. All right. Enough, he said with a grin. We shouldn't laugh too much. But he wasn't fully serious, his smile remained. Sir, Mira said between breaths, you can't blame us. The Council actually did it. They finally snapped. They've been snapping for years, Salas replied. We just didn't expect them to do it so loudly. The room relaxed, but the commander's gaze sharpened as he took a seat at the strategic table. Status reports. Now. Earth was already prepared. Admiral Jalen Kor pulled up a display of Earth's defenses. Blue holograms expanded into the shape of the solar system, dotted with symbols representing bases and fleets. Solar defenses are at 112% readiness, he reported. Orbital shields are stable. The Horizon fleet is fully crewed and fueled. Quantum step drives are operational on all frontline vessels. Salas nodded. Good. And our allies? The Luminari enclaves pledged support 2 weeks ago, Mira said. And the independent Rim colonies trust us more than the Council. They'll stay neutral or lean our way. A communications officer raised a hand nervously. Sir, public reaction? Salas smiled again. Let me guess, he said. Laughter? The officer nodded, almost apologetically. The moment the news hit the global feed, people started making jokes. Memes. Reactions. Videos. It spread everywhere in minutes. Humanity's sense of humor, strange, unpredictable, unstoppable, had become one of their signature traits in the galaxy. To humans, danger didn't always trigger fear. Sometimes it triggered defiance. Sometimes it triggered creativity. And sometimes it triggered laughter. Why humanity laughed? Salas leaned back in his chair and studied the faces around him. You know why they're laughing? He asked quietly. Mira nodded. Because we've seen this coming for years. Exactly, Salas said. Ever since humanity entered the interstellar stage, the Council has been trying to control us. Limit us. Slow us. He tapped the table, bringing up archived footage. The first human FTL jump. Human explorers reaching systems the Council had claimed but never visited. Human inventors pioneering technologies the Council spent centuries forbidding. Human diplomats greeting alien leaders with relaxed smiles instead of rigid fear. Every clip had one thing in common. Humans looked like they were having the time of their lives. The Council mistook that for disrespect. But humans simply refused to live in fear. Salas continued, we laugh because we're not scared. We laugh because we're ready. And we laugh because the universe, this vast, impossible universe, is still an adventure to us. And now the Council thinks war will intimidate us, Mira said. It won't, Salas replied. It never could. Across the Terran Union. As Strategic Command assessed the situation, the rest of humanity reacted in its own wild way. In the orbital shipyards above Luna, engineers paused their work only to burst into laughter and shake their heads. I knew it, one muttered. The Council finally lost it. In Mars Dome City, students gathered around a hollow screen, laughing over the Council's dramatic declarations. This is the worst political move ever, one said. They want to fight us after we invented step drives? On Titan's research platforms, scientists grinned as they prepared experimental tech that would terrify the Council if they ever learned about it. Everywhere, from the floating cities of Venus to the underwater arcologies of Europa, humans reacted the same way. Not with panic, but with humor, confidence, and a shared sense of unity. The declaration of war did not divide humanity. It bonded them tighter than ever. Strategic Command debates a response. Back in New Geneva, Salas rubbed his temples as his laughter faded. Okay. Enough comedy, he said. We need to send an official reply. Admiral Kor cleared his throat. A serious one, I assume? Salas shook his head. No. A human one. The officers exchanged puzzled glances. What do you mean, sir? Mira asked. Salas smirked. I mean honest, unfiltered, unmistakable humanity. He stood, straightened his uniform, and approached the central recorder. The hollow cameras flickered on. Begin transmission, he ordered. He faced the camera with calm confidence. No fear, no anger. This is High Commander Aaron Salas of the Terran Union, he began. We've received your declaration of war. And to be honest, he paused. A smile slowly spread across his face. You caught us mid-laugh. The room stifled another wave of chuckles behind him. Salas continued. We do not seek war. We never have. But we will not be intimidated. If the Council wishes to escalate, then they should understand something first. Humanity does not bend. He leaned in slightly. We explore. We innovate. We adapt. And most importantly, we persevere. He ended the message with a final line meant for the entire galaxy. Talk to us. Don't threaten us. Because we don't fear the universe, and we never will. The recording ended. The room exhaled. And a quiet resolve settled over everyone present. Prepare for incoming fleets, Salas commanded. They'll be here soon. And indeed, they were already on their way. The declaration of war spread across the Terran Union like a shockwave, Yet instead of fear, it triggered something the Galaxy Council could never have predicted. Laughter. Not wild, mocking laughter. Not cocky arrogance. But something deeper, almost instinctive. Across every colony, station, and habitat where humans lived, the reaction was the same. A shared moment of disbelief followed by the unmistakable sound that defined humanity more than any technology ever could. The laugh heard around the solar system. The first viral clip came from Luna Shipyard 6, a massive orbital structure where thousands built humanity's next-generation starships. When the war announcement appeared on the workers' comm screens, a short silence hung in the air. Then one engineer, grease on his cheek and welding mask in hand, snorted. "War? They're declaring war on us." His co-workers stared at him. He shrugged. "What? It's funny?" And then he laughed. Slowly the others joined him. It spread from platform to platform until the sound of laughter echoed across the entire shipyard, bouncing off steel beams and glowing engine cores. A passing supervisor sighed with tired amusement. "Well," she said, "that's one way to motivate productivity." Farther out, on the Martian Plateau Dome, children gathered around a hollow display showing the council's dramatic speech. Their teacher paused the footage and rubbed her temples. One of the students asked, "Is this serious? Are we in danger?" The teacher smiled gently. "Of course it's serious. But danger doesn't mean we stop living." Another child chimed in, "My dad said the council just doesn't get us." The class broke into another round of giggles after replaying the part where Vaylor slammed his staff dramatically, so theatrical it felt like a parody. On Europa, oceanographers working in subsurface research stations watched the news during meal break. "Finally happened," one muttered between bites. "Thought it'd take another year." His colleague nodded. "Knew it. You poke the council with curiosity long enough, they poke back." A third researcher raised her cup. "To humanity. The most stubborn species in the galaxy." They laughed and toasted to it. Laughter was humanity's armor. In the deep chambers of New Geneva, High Commander Aaron Salas wasn't surprised. He expected laughter. Humanity had learned long ago that fear was useless against things bigger than them. Nature, disaster, hardship, the unknown. Their ancestors had faced diseases, wars, storms, famine, extinction events, and still kept moving forward. Humor didn't erase danger. But it made danger survivable. And in the stars, danger was everywhere. That's why engineers joked during engine tests. Why pilots laughed before impossible flights. Why colonists chuckled before stepping onto barren, airless worlds. Humanity had a strange, brilliant instinct. If something scared them, they joked about it. If something threatened them, they smiled at it. If something tried to dominate them, they laughed. Not out of disrespect, but because laughter was their way of refusing to surrender. The council never understood. Back in the council hall, representatives analyzed the human reaction with confusion and dread. Thousands of clips showed humans laughing. Workers, soldiers, students, scientists, diplomats, even children. Why do they find war amusing? Vaylor demanded. "No logical answer detected," droned the synth collective speaker. "Pattern does not match fear. Pattern does not match hostility. Pattern resembles confidence." Vaylor's eyes narrowed. Confidence was worse than hostility. Confidence meant humans didn't take the council seriously. Confidence meant they believed they could win. The council misinterpreted humanity's laughter as mockery. They didn't understand it was strength. How humanity prepared for this moment. Inside the TFS Horizon's gate, humanity's flagship, preparations intensified. Captain Lyra Thane reviewed diagnostics from the command chair. Her crew moved like a well-oiled machine across the neon-lit bridge. Every console hummed with the energy of recent inventions, technology so advanced the council labeled it recklessly premature. Her communications officer approached. "Captain, incoming civilian broadcast. You need to see this." Lyra raised a brow. "Is it a threat?" "No, ma'am. It's a comedy skit." The holoscreen lit up with a popular comedian performing a parody of Vaylor KRYH. The Chancellor's speech had been edited to make it sound like he sprained his tail mid-sentence, causing the audience to roar with laughter. Lyra sighed, though a smile tugged at her lips. "Only humans," she muttered. Commander Salas entered the lower bridge level at that moment. "Another one?" "Third today," Lyra replied. "And they're getting more creative." Salas leaned on the rail, watching the playfully exaggerated depiction of the galaxy's most feared leader. "Let them joke," he said. "It helps them breathe." Lyra nodded. Behind her calm eyes was steel. "Commander, you realize the council will see laughter as provocation." Salas folded his arms. They already declared war. How much more provoked can they be? He wasn't wrong. A universe that underestimated humanity. The Galaxy Council had never fought humans before. They had fought species that surrendered, species that negotiated, species that begged. But humans? Humans didn't do any of these things. Instead, they evolved, adapted, innovated, and they did it quickly. In under 80 years, humanity had leapt from primitive FTL drives to quantum step propulsion, built ships that could shimmer in and out of sensor range, developed energy shielding beyond Council understanding, colonized worlds the Council deemed uninhabitable, established alliances the Council failed to predict. Humanity did in decades what others needed centuries to attempt, and they did it while laughing. The psychology behind the smile. Dr. Saran Helix, chief behavioral scientist for the Terran Union, studied the phenomenon from his lab. He looked over footage of humans laughing at the war declaration and dictated notes into his system. Humans react to existential threats with stress relief behavior. Humor becomes a coping mechanism. This creates unity and reduces panic. He paused the recording. But there is more, he added thoughtfully. Humor is not simply defense. It's defiance. Humans laugh because they refuse to be dominated. He turned to his assistant. They laugh because they know they won't lose. The assistant blinked. Is that scientifically supported? Dr. Helix smiled. No. But it is, statistically meaningful. Human unity was the real weapon. As the solar system prepared for incoming Council fleets, something extraordinary happened. Nations that previously disagreed came together. Corporations that fought over patents shared technology. Colonies on the edge of exploration offered resources freely. Old rivalries vanished overnight. Humans, infamously divisive creatures, became united under one simple truth. The galaxy thought they were weak. The Council believed they could scare them into obedience. But the humans knew something the rest of the galaxy didn't. Fear wasn't part of their DNA. They were pioneers whose ancestors crossed oceans in wooden boats, climbed mountains with frozen hands, and survived winters that wiped out entire cities. Compared to that, a galactic superpower declaring war felt almost funny. The calm before the storm. As laughter echoed across the solar system, fleets mobilized. Factories doubled production. Scientists ran final tests on breakthrough technologies. Commander Aaron Salas stood at the viewing deck of Horizon's Gate, watching Earth rotate below. His reflection stared back at him, steady, resolute. Behind him, Lyra Thane approached. You think we stand a chance? Salas didn't answer immediately. He watched the planet, the birthplace of their madness and brilliance. Then he smiled, not the humorless grin of arrogance, but the warm, unshakable smile of humanity. We don't just stand a chance, he said softly. We stand together. And somewhere in the void between stars, the Galaxy Council fleet was already on its way. Humanity didn't tremble. Humanity prepared. Humanity laughed. The chamber lights of the Galaxy Council glowed a furious crimson as the emergency session reconvened. Every species present felt it, the tension, the embarrassment, the insult. Only hours had passed since humanity's response, and yet the recording had already become the most circulated piece of data in the known galaxy. The moment the feed replayed on the Council's holoscreen, many delegates twitched in shame. It showed the Terran envoy, Captain Lyra Vance, sitting in a simple chair aboard the human diplomatic vessel. No ceremonial garments. No guarded escort. No translator drones floating around her. Just a relaxed, faintly amused expression. And then her words, those infamous words, echoed once again. War? Against us? You're welcome to try, but honestly it'll just be embarrassing for you. She even sipped coffee afterward. Coffee. Like the Council's grand declaration of interstellar war was nothing more than a trivial inconvenience. When the clip ended, the chamber erupted into overlapping shouts. This is intolerable, hissed Ambassador Korvek of the Ulthari Dominion, his silver scales puffing with agitation. They mock us openly. They mock the entire Galaxy Council, snapped Chancellor Vortal, pounding a fist against the podium hard enough to send a tremor down his heavy, stone-like body. Their insolence cannot go unanswered. And yet, murmured the soft-voiced Elindra, they fear nothing. That alone warrants caution. The delegates quieted. Elindra was not known for speaking often, but when she did, entire sectors listened. Her luminous form shimmered as she rose from her seat. We have hurled threats. We have issued ultimatums. We have armed ourselves with dreadnoughts and fleets. Humanity's answer was laughter. Perhaps we are missing something. Vortal glared. We are missing nothing. They are frail, soft-bodied bipeds clinging to a single star. Their fleets are small. Their defenses primitive. Korvek added sharply, then why aren't they afraid? The silence that followed was uncomfortable. Even Vortal avoided answering. Across the chamber, the thin and insectoid Dralbach ambassador, Ziektil, clicked her mandibles anxiously. We have monitored human activity for decades. They expand aggressively, adapt rapidly, and learn alarmingly fast. Perhaps you mean to suggest they want this war? Vortal growled. Ziektil bowed her head. I merely propose caution. But Vortal was too enraged to consider restraint. He spread his four massive arms, his voice amplified through the chamber's acoustics. The Galaxy Council has been mocked, defied, humiliated. We cannot allow a fledgling species to stain our authority. War preparations will proceed. The Terrans will be crushed swiftly before their arrogance spreads like a plague. A rumble of agreement moved through much of the room. But not all. Because at the far end of the circular chamber, a quiet hum began, a signal that someone had requested to speak. All eyes turned as the hologram of Professor Silari materialized above her seat. She was one of the galaxy's foremost historians, a scholar of extinct civilizations, ancient conflicts, and vanished cultures. Her presence in council meetings was rare. Her warnings, historically, had always been painfully accurate. I have studied humanity extensively, she began, her tone calm but heavy. Their myths, their wars, their patterns. And I believe the council gravely underestimates them. Vortal scoffed. A primitive species is no threat to us. Primitive? Silari's hologram flickered, almost an offense. This is the same species that mastered FTL travel without outside assistance. Who survived global wars, environmental collapse, and internal division, yet unified under a single interstellar banner in less than 2 centuries. Many delegates shifted uncomfortably. Silari continued. They are unpredictable. Their humor masks an evolutionary history steeped in conflict. Their culture romanticizes defiance. Their refusal to fear us is not ignorance, it is strategy. Korvek frowned. Are you saying their mockery is a weapon? Yes, Silari said simply. A psychological strike. One designed to unbalance us, which, judging by this session, has succeeded. Vortal slammed a fist down again. Your analysis is irrelevant. Their fleets are small. Their colonies are young. Numbers alone will overwhelm them. Silari gave him a pitying look. You speak of numbers while ignoring something far more dangerous. And what is that? Vortal snapped. Silari paused, letting the tension settle. The Terran's ability to change the rules of war faster than any species in known history. A murmur rippled through the chamber. They innovate under pressure. They adapt in chaos. Every time another species has challenged them, economically, politically, militarily, humanity has risen faster than anyone predicted. They laugh because they already know something we do not. Vortal crossed his arms. And what exactly do they know? Silari's expression hardened. That if the Council attacks them, the galaxy will never be the same again. The room fell into uneasy quiet. But then Vortal uttered the words that would change the galaxy's fate. Enough. This council will not be intimidated by a species that still struggles to colonize its own moons. They want war? We will give them war. He gestured to the tactical officers. Begin mobilization of the coalition armada. Humanity will learn respect. A cold heaviness settled into the room. Orders were set. Fleets awakened in dry docks across dozens of systems. War engines roared to life. Entire planets were told to prepare for conflict. Yet amid the flurry of command signals and strategic deployments, many delegates felt the same sinking dread. Why weren't the humans afraid? Across the stars, aboard the human envoy ship, Captain Lyra Vance received the Galaxy Council's official war proclamation. She read it twice, then she leaned back casually, sipping her coffee. Well, she murmured to herself, looks like they've decided. A small communications drone hovered beside her, awaiting instructions. Lyra smirked. Prepare a message to Earth Command. Tell them the Council took the bait. Message prepared, the drone chimed. Lyra stood, stretching as if she'd merely finished reading morning mail. And let them know, she added, that Phase 2 can begin. Phase 2? The drone asked. Lyra smiled, a slow, confident smile. Yes. It's time the galaxy learns why humans don't fear wars. She glanced at the stars beyond the viewport. And why our laughter was the warning they should have taken seriously. The drone transmitted the encrypted signal. And in that moment, a silent ripple moved through human space, a shift, subtle yet seismic. Because humanity wasn't preparing for war. Humanity had already been prepared. And now they were ready to show the galaxy something it had never witnessed before. Something far more terrifying than weapons. Humanity at full seriousness. The stars over the Sol frontier shimmered peacefully, untouched by the storms swelling across the galaxy. Merchant ships drifted between jump lanes, orbital habitats glowed with routine traffic, and civilian broadcasts filled the void with mundane chatter. Sports updates, cooking competitions, music nights. To the untrained eye, humanity looked calm, unmoved, unbothered. But beneath that still surface, something enormous was happening. Something the Galaxy Council had never imagined. The shift begins. In the command citadel on Earth, Grand Strategist Orion Kales stood before a massive projection of the Milky Way. Data streams flowed like rivers. Threat markers pulsed red across 36 sectors. The Coalition Armada had officially mobilized. Orion clasped his hands behind his back. He wasn't a big man, thin, silver-haired, almost scholarly, but his presence filled the room with quiet authority. The doors slid open. Captain Lyra Vance stepped inside, still carrying the casual energy that had shaken the council chamber. But here, among her own, her expression hardened to match the room's tone. Orion nodded in greeting. Your message was received. Phase 2 is authorized. The council's fleets are on the move. Lyra smirked. They didn't hesitate. Of course not, Orion replied calmly. Arrogance rarely does. Lyra approached the galaxy map. Do we activate the defense grid? No, Orion said. Let them advance. The closer they come, the more effective our countermeasures become. Lyra raised an eyebrow. Most species build a defensive perimeter. We're inviting them in. Orion smiled faintly. Humanity has never been much for doing things the normal way. The human secret. Across the room, a group of analysts whispered excitedly. Massive quantum processors hummed behind armored walls. Orbital factories shifted from civilian output to something far more ominous. For over a century, humanity had been preparing, not for war but for existential threats. They had reinforced planets with hidden infrastructure. Buried gravitic fields beneath crust layers. Built shield networks disguised as civilian comm satellites. Constructed fleets that never appeared on any public registry. Not because they feared other species, but because humans feared themselves. Their own history, their own destructive potential. They vowed never to let their species die out easily again. And now all those precautions were coming alive. One by one. Quietly. Effortlessly. The Council's first shock. Light years away, the Coalition Armada surged through warp space. Thousands of warships, each the pride of powerful species, formed an imposing wall of firepower. On the flagship Dominion Spear, Chancellor Vortal admired the formation with smug satisfaction. At last, he rumbled, we show these insolent primates what a true interstellar power looks like. But his advisor, Elindra, did not share his enthusiasm. Her glowing form flickered uneasily. Chancellor, their silence troubles me. Vortal scoffed. They refuse to negotiate in fear. Simple. Elindra shook her head. No. I have read their psychological archives. Humans are impulsive, emotional, expressive. When threatened they respond, loudly. The lack of noise is unnatural. Vortal waved a disdainful hand. Your concerns are noted. And irrelevant. But Elindra's gaze remained fixed on the forward viewport, where the stars stretched into thin lines of light. Something is wrong, she whispered. Humanity's non-response. Meanwhile, dozens of alien spy probes entered Sol space. They scanned, measured, and transmitted data back to their command centers. What they found was nothing. No war fleets mobilizing. No planetary evacuations. No mass panic. No military buildup. Just humans living their lives. Laughing. Working. Growing crops. Streaming entertainment. Running space tourism shuttles. One probe circulated a recording that baffled the entire council. A group of human children playing zero-gravity tag on a public orbital station. During wartime. Who behaves like this? The council demanded. But they didn't understand. Humanity wasn't calm because they were ignorant. They were calm because they had already prepared for the worst possible scenario centuries ago. Phase 2, Activation. On Earth, Orion Kales approached a secure console. Only 3 living humans had the access codes he now entered. When the system accepted his biometrics, a dull hum shook the room. Massive dormant satellites awakened in distant orbits. Dark constructs hidden behind moon shadows revealed their metallic spines. Warp detection webs lit up across human space. And deep beneath Earth's crust, a machine older than the lunar colonies stirred. Lyra watched the readouts expand. So Phase 2 is a full grid activation? Orion nodded. Defensive grid Zeta. Something we hoped we'd never need. Lyra exhaled slowly. Do the Council fleets know? They will, Orion said, precisely when we want them to. The wall screens shifted to tactical view, showing the enemy armada closing in on human territory. They're expecting fear, Lyra muttered. Orion smiled again, calm, almost amused. Then let's disappoint them. The first contact point. At the edge of Sol space, the Coalition armada emerged in a synchronized burst of warp shockwaves. Their lead dreadnought immediately opened a channel to all human frequencies. This is Commander Vrogar of the Council Coalition, the metallic voice boomed. Humanity, you stand outmatched. You will surrender your planets and submit to Council authority. Static answered him. He repeated the message. Still nothing. He tried again. This time a human voice responded, flat and unbothered. Hi, you've reached Terran Space Security. All our lines are busy right now. Please hold. Music began playing. Cheerful elevator music. The dreadnought bridge erupted into confused murmurs. Commander Vrogar's mandibles clicked furiously. Is this a joke? Then the music abruptly cut, replaced by another calm human voice. Thanks for waiting. Your call is very important to us. Unfortunately, all invasion attempts are currently unavailable. Please try again later. And the channel closed. Silence gripped the dreadnought. Elindra whispered, horrified. They're still mocking us. Vortal's face twisted into rage. Forward the fleet. Attack immediately. The trap springs. The first wave of Council ships charged. But they never reached human territory. The moment they crossed an invisible boundary in space, every ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared. Power fluctuations surged. Navigation arrays failed. What is happening? Vrogar shouted. Elindra stared at her failing instruments. A gravitational net, but of impossible scale. The entire first line of ships drifted helplessly, caught in a silent, artificial current. And then the human signal arrived. Come. Warm. Deadly serious. This is Grand Strategist Orion Kales of the Terran Union. His voice echoed through the confused and terrified armada. The next time the Council wishes to declare war on humanity, they should remember something. The gravitational net tightened. Humans were done laughing. We don't start wars, Orion said. We finish them. The Council ships trembled. And most importantly? His voice dropped to a cold whisper. We warned you. The gravitational net held the first wave of the Coalition armada like insects trapped in a cosmic web. Engines sputtered, navigation flickered, and entire dreadnoughts drifted helplessly, their colossal mass rendered meaningless. Panic spread through the ranks. On the flagship Dominion Spear, Chancellor Vortal stared in disbelief at the trembling stars outside the viewport. This cannot be human technology, he snarled. No single species could create a gravimetric field of this size. But Elindra didn't argue. She didn't even look at him. Her luminous eyes were fixed on her failing console, horror glowing in every pulse of her energy form. It is not the size that concerns me, she whispered. It is the precision. They targeted our entire fleet, and not a single civilian vessel, asteroid, or drifting rock within the field has moved by even a meter. Vortal's breath caught. The implications hit him like a meteor. Humanity wasn't just using massive technology. They were using it with surgical precision. Humanity's first move. Across the battlefield, the holographic projection of Grand Strategist Orion Kales materialized in front of hundreds of alien captains. Cold. In complete control. Council Armada, he began, voice echoing across frequencies, you have crossed into secured Terran territory. You are in violation of interstellar law. As such, you will be held until the diplomatic corps arrives to process your retreat. The words were polite. The tone was not. Vortal stepped toward the projector, hands shaking with fury. You dare imprison the fleets of the Galaxy Council? You dare. Chancellor Vortal, Orion interrupted, you declared war on us. This is the consequence. Lyra Vance appeared beside him in the projection, arms folded casually. Honestly, you should be grateful we're detaining you instead of vaporizing you. Most species would have jumped straight to the fun option. Murmurs spread through the trapped armada. Humiliation. Fear. Uncertainty. Orion clasped his hands calmly behind his back. You have 1 hour to disengage your offensive protocols and prepare for diplomatic escort. Vortal sputtered. You cannot dictate terms to. But the projection had already vanished. The council's desperation. Back in the council chamber, chaos erupted. Delegates shouted over one another. Some demanded immediate reinforcements. Others screamed for retreat. And a rare few whispered the most dangerous words of all. We have made a terrible mistake. Ambassador Korvek slammed his claws against his console. We cannot abandon the armada. Deploy the second wave immediately. Zektil, the insectoid ambassador, shook her mandibles in despair. Deploy another fleet? Into technology we do not understand? Into a trap clearly designed for us. Silari's hologram flickered into view, her expression grim. The council must not act rashly. Humanity has revealed only the smallest fraction of their capabilities. If we escalate, they will escalate. Elindra's report arrived only seconds later. Her voice was shaky. I am transmitting battlefield data. The humans have achieved a gravitational manipulation lattice far beyond theoretical limits. They disabled nearly 3,000 ships without destroying any. This is not war, it is containment. The word stung the council. Containment. Humans had trapped them as though they were children playing with stolen weapons. Vortal's voice crackled across the chamber's speakers. Council. I demand reinforcements. The humans have caught our fleet in some sort of... Static interrupted him. Then a human voice replaced his transmission. Lyra Vance. Attention Council Chamber. Your flagship's broadcast was interfering with communications. We've muted him for now. You're welcome. Even Silari's hologram flickered with discomfort. Now do you see, she urged? They are not responding with fear because they do not need to. Humanity has been preparing for something far worse than us. Inside the trap. On the Dominion sphere, terror spread like wildfire. Species that once saw themselves as apex civilizations now felt small, hopelessly small, inside a net woven by human hands. Vortal roared, cut through the field. Fire plasma cannons. Chancellor, Elindra warned. Fire. The dreadnought unleashed a full barrage. The plasma bursts, powerful enough to melt a small moon, shot across space. And curved gently away. Redirected. Harmless. The bridge fell into stunned silence. The gravitational net shimmered like an invisible ocean, swallowing every attack like it was a child's toy. Elindra whispered, voice trembling. Chancellor, the humans have disabled our weapons by manipulating the curvature of space itself. Impossible, he breathed. Then explain, Elindra snapped, how your strongest weapons now bend like waves on a shore. Vortal had no answer. Human diplomacy arrives. Exactly 1 hour later, the human diplomatic corps arrived. Not in warships. Not in dreadnoughts. But in sleek silver vessels that looked more like luxury cruisers than military assets. Human ambassadors stood on the hulls in pressure suits, waving as though greeting old friends. One of them, Ambassador Rhea Calder, opened a channel. Greetings, Council representatives. We're here to guide you out of restricted territory. Please follow our ships in an orderly fashion. There will be beverages at the rendezvous point. Silence. Then Rhea added almost playfully. And please don't try shooting at us again. The last time made our engineers laugh so hard they nearly fell out of their chairs. The humiliation was unbearable. But the trap was absolute. The armada had no choice but to comply. Slowly, reluctantly, they followed the human escorts out of the gravitational net. What awaited them outside was even worse. News broadcasts. Civilian commentary. Human comedians roasting the Council's failed invasion. Memes flooding galactic channels. The entire galaxy was laughing. Not at humanity. At the Council. A dangerous realization. As the defeated fleet limped away, Elindra leaned toward Vortal and whispered the truth he had refused to see. We were wrong. Vortal trembled with rage. About what? Humans did not laugh because they were arrogant. Her gaze hardened. They laughed because they were already prepared for anything we could do. She slowly folded her luminous hands. And now, they have shown the galaxy that the Council is not the strongest power. The Chancellor's breath froze in his throat. Because in that moment he understood. Humanity wasn't just another young species. They were a new superpower. And the Council had provoked them. The humiliated remains of the Coalition Armada drifted away from Terran space under human escort, each warship carrying thousands of shaken soldiers who no longer knew what their galaxy was. They had entered the sole frontier as conquerors, unstoppable, superior, unquestioned. They were leaving as prisoners who never even got to fight. Across every fleet, across every species on board, a single thought repeated in silent, chilled unison. How long have the humans been capable of this? The answer was one the Council didn't want to face. A galaxy watching. Holostreams across the Milky Way broadcasted the footage of the Council's disastrous invasion. Billions watched it. Children on floating ocean platforms in the Azurian kingdoms, merchants in the trade spires of Mirko, warriors in the volcanic pits of the Vrax horde, scientists on gas giant observation rings. Species that had feared the Council their entire lives now saw something unthinkable. It might reduce to a joke. The top trending clip across thousands of networks showed humanity's infamous elevator hold music, the one they played as the Council demanded surrender. Even infants of various civilizations were laughing at it. The humiliation was total. But more importantly, the galaxy now understood one thing with terrifying clarity. Humanity was not weak. They were simply done pretending. The Council in crisis. Back on the Council homeworld, the Grand Chamber looked like a battlefield of emotions. Vortal arrived only after hours of internal meltdown, his pride bruised deeper than any wound. His stone-like frame normally radiated intimidation, but today he walked like a shattered monument. Silence followed him as he entered. Every ambassador watched. Every species waited. Vortal attempted to speak, but his voice cracked, something no one had ever heard before. He swallowed hard. They played with our armada. Silari's hologram flickered into view. I warned you. For once, her tone held no scholarly neutrality, only sorrow. Zektil's mandibles clicked nervously. We must consider the possibility that humanity now holds military primacy. Korvek growled, we cannot submit to them. We are the Galaxy Council. Our authority has guided the stars for. Ilindra raised a glowing hand, calming the turmoil instantly. No one is suggesting submission, she replied softly. But we must accept that our perception of humanity was outdated. Outdated? Vortal spat. They were laughing at us. And that should terrify you, Ilindra answered. Because only those with absolute confidence laugh at the threat of annihilation. She stepped forward, luminous body shimmering like a fading star. The Council has been humbled. Now the question is not how we punish humanity, but how we survive them. Those words echoed like thunder. Humanity makes its move. In the Terran Command Citadel, Grand Strategist Orion Kales monitored the galaxy-wide reaction. He watched fear ripple across species who had once bullied Earth's diplomats. He observed trade federations rapidly renegotiating their terms with humans. Even distant empires sent polite inquiries. Humanity had not fired a single lethal shot. Yet the galaxy trembled. Lyra Vance approached, arms behind her back. The Council is panicking, she reported. Some members want peace, others want revenge. Most just want answers. Orion nodded, adjusting the star map hovering before him. And we will give them answers. Lyra raised an eyebrow. All right, strategist. What's the next step? Orion turned, eyes calm, voice steady. We end this war not with destruction, but with exposure. Lyra frowned slightly. Exposure? Yes. Orion clasped his hands. We show the galaxy exactly what humanity has built. Not as a threat, but as a message. Lyra studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled. You're going to make a statement. A necessary one. The broadcast that changed history. Hours later, across every frequency, every subspace relay, every planetary network, a universal override occurred. Screens flickered. Holofeeds halted. Even encrypted military channels froze. Then one image appeared. The Earth. Blue shimmering calm. Behind it, a massive lattice of faint energy stretching like a star web. The newly activated Terran defense grid Zeta. And then Orion Kales appeared on screen. A single human. Addressing the entire galaxy. Citizens of the Milky Way, he began, voice steady yet resonant. We come to you today not as conquerors, but as kin in this great cosmic frontier. All of you have witnessed the Council's attempt to invade our home. And all of you have seen the outcome. He paused long enough for every species to lean closer. Humanity has no desire for war. We have fought enough of them across our own history. But we also refuse to submit to threats, intimidation, or declarations of dominance. A gentle shift in his tone. We prepared our defenses not for you, but in fear of our own past. Our world nearly destroyed itself once. We swore never again. The camera zoomed slightly. So understand this clearly. We do not seek to rule the galaxy. We do not seek to replace the Council. But we will not be ruled. We will not be conquered. The defense grid flared softly behind the Earth, beautiful but impossibly powerful. And to the Council, Orion continued, you may keep your authority, your structure, your politics. But never again will you threaten humanity. Never again will you send fleets to our borders. He leaned closer. And never again will you mistake our laughter for weakness. The broadcast ended. And across the galaxy silence followed. A silence heavier than war. A new galactic balance. Minutes later in the Council chamber no one spoke. Not Vortal. Not Elindra. Not Korvek. Not even the famously verbose trade delegates. Because they all understood the message. Humanity was powerful enough to win a war they didn't even want to fight. If the Council pushed them further, humanity might not hold back next time. Elindra finally broke the silence. Chancellor, we must negotiate peace. Vortal swallowed hard, pride bleeding out of him. Yes. The first Terran treaty. 3 days later, in an unprecedented move, the Galaxy Council formally retracted its declaration of war. A diplomatic envoy headed by Elindra traveled to Earth. The treaty signed that day reshaped the galaxy. The Terran Accords. The Council recognized humanity as an independent superpower. Humanity gained a permanent seat on the High Council. The Council was forbidden from militarizing near-Sol territory. Trade and scientific cooperation were expanded massively. And most importantly, expansion rights in 3 new sectors were granted to humanity. The Council called it compromise. The galaxy called it diplomacy. But humans knew the truth. It was surrender wrapped in ceremony. The Terran dawn. Thousands gathered on Earth's orbital ring when Lyra and Orion returned from the treaty signing. Civilians cheered. Soldiers saluted. Children waved glowing banners. Humanity had won a war without war. And that victory, achieved with restraint and cunning, marked the dawn of a new era. Orion stood before the crowd and spoke only a single sentence. The galaxy wanted to see what humanity could do. He smiled. Now they know. The crowd erupted. Above them, the defense grid shimmered like a second constellation. Quiet, beautiful, unstoppable. The message was clear. The age of fear was over. The age of humanity had begun.